Joining us right now via Zoom chat is Ilan Surlovich. He is the CEO of Egard Watches, an actor, teacher, fighter, and we're very grateful for your time today. Good morning to you, Mr. Surlovich.
Morning. Thank you for having me on.
I guess a week and a half ago, I caught the news about your commercial about women, and we played part of it on our program, and I spent some time discussing it. And I have to say, I was very proud that there was at least one company out there who had the courage to stand up against woke identity politics. Tell me about Egard. Tell me about why you decided to do this.
Well, I started the company for my father. It's the biggest platform I have. A lot of what I'm trying to do with the company nowadays is not only to make nice watches, but to kind of honor our values and put out into the world what we think is positive messaging in a time where no other companies are willing to do that. You know, it's not the first time we've kind of stood up for what we believe in. We did a video called "What is a Man?" Right after the Gillette video. We did one called "Speak Truth," which was to humanize police in the height of the defund police movement. We did one called "What is Freedom?" Right in the middle of the mandates. And so, you know, there's kind of a history now of us doing this. And I think it's important for companies to do this because it allows other companies to do it. It allows cultural change to happen. If no one sees representation of their point of view in society, they're going to believe that they're in the minority when in fact they very well may be in the majority. And I truly believe that's the case. So I'm just trying to open the door for other companies to do this, for potentially people in Hollywood to finally start speaking out, because there's a lot of people who are just quiet there out of fear of losing their jobs. And that's pretty much the whole idea behind it.
So many companies. I mean, one of the points I made when we played a part of your commercial was when the Planned Parenthood thing was happening and we were trying to defund abortion. I mean, company after, it was like 200 CEOs came out to say that they would ban their companies in Atlanta or in Georgia itself. And there was so much pushback. And it seems today that the wind barely needs to even blow before some CEO, some company somewhere is aligning themselves to some woke ideology. And this gender politics is in full swing. I mean, golly gee whiz, if they have a product, why not just make a great product and not get involved? Why do companies feel the need to be involved at all?
I think we exist in a time where there's a group of people, whether it's in media, whether it's in big tech, whether it's corporate America, that's trying to invert truth. I think there's extreme identity politics being pushed. It's a denial of the individual. It's a denial of what makes you special. You know, this is a religious channel, so we can talk about it very, very comfortably here. But if God created everyone to be unique and loves them, then that's where their value is. Instead, what they're doing is they're saying, no, you have no value. You need to create a group identity. And through that group identity, whether it's the transgender movement, whatever that extreme group identity is created to give you value. Otherwise, you have nothing. You have nihilism, right? And so we exist now in a society that is heavily influenced by nihilism. So people are trying to create value. Companies do take advantage of that. People don't have anything to turn to if they don't have something bigger than themselves to turn to. And so you're seeing these companies saying, hey, there's an opening here for us to push and try and create a culture in the future where people will be dependent on us, right? If they can change culture within 10 years, it's why all the marketing is always towards kids. It's not toward you or I. Our beliefs are firm. They know they're not going to change us, but they do know that if they advertise to kids, there'll be new normals set. And in 10 years, you're talking about abortion recently. It's fascinating that 10 years ago, if I were to tell you, have a conversation with anyone on the street, will they be okay with late-term abortion? The answer would be no. It's a very, very fringe position. You talk about abortion today, a lot of conversations I've had with people, they're okay with up to the moment the child is born. And so these, again, like I said, these companies, big tech, Hollywood, are not trying to change where we sit, you or I today. They're trying to change where people sit in 10 years. And then those new normals are constantly being set, and they're being set at a faster rate than ever. So when I say 10 years, that was 10 years ago. Now every 2 years, every 1 year, we have a Supreme Court justice who can't define the word woman. That should be something that most of the population finds extreme. They don't. We're putting biological men in prison with women. We are putting men who have sexually assaulted women in prison with women. And we don't see a huge percentage of the population outraged and speaking up. And it's because, again, all of corporate America, all of Hollywood, all of big tech are only allowing one narrative and one narrative only. And what are we doing? We're being pushed into silence. I heard, sorry to go on a rant like this, but I heard when I was listening to the show previously, one of the messages that was pushed was that there are virtues like courage that need to be brought to the top of society again, because our entire country is based on certain virtues, and every country that has succeeded in history has maintained these virtues like courage, virtues like fortitude, being able to speak when no one is willing to speak. And that is where your power is. And that is where we are silencing ourselves the most. We're actually taking agreeableness and safety and saying these are the most important things in society. And you have an inversion of truth happening because of that, because those are inversions of virtues. They are the antithesis of actual virtues. And so I think it's kind of created a weird dynamic now where all these things are being pushed to the forefront.
Amen. We're talking with Ilan Shulovich. He is the CEO of Egard, egardwatches.com. You should check it out. He's got his commercials there, too. You can see the one on women, the men, and I think you have one for police officers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir. And yeah, what about just American values and freedom as well? So we got a couple up there.
And you're based out of Florida. And Florida is in the news big time right now, seeming in a major combat against Disney and woke politics. Disney is a powerhouse of a corporation. I mean, I don't know how many billions of dollars they have in assets right now. And Florida's taking that on. What is that like from your perspective?
My perspective, it's healthy that it's happening. Again, you have these corporations essentially just trampling what a lot of Americans believe. I think it's interesting that DeSantis is he's one of the few people who's willing to stand up and say, hey, look, certain things that are happening today need to be challenged. I think you have a part of the country that is playing nice and a part of the country that isn't playing nice. And so until there's some kind of equal playing field where people are playing the same game, we're going to be trampled on. And so I'm happy to see that there's some pushback against Disney. I was happy to see that it wasn't just Florida pushing back. There was a massive response to Disney for what they were pushing from the general population. It's just not getting a lot of attention, but there's a huge amount of people who were very bothered by the kind of things that Disney was putting out there. So again, it's good that it's happening.
Well, go ahead, Adrian.
You know, I was the video just came out from the TFP Student Action, and they were having a satanic club at a children's at a school, at a elementary school in Louisiana, and so they recorded a video of one of the people going up and testifying against satanic school, and I thought it was so profound because this guy, he was just some guy, he's not speaking eloquently, he just has this kind of mentality that this is bad, and he said, people are asking me, did I look up this people? Did I find out who's running this and things like that? He goes, I don't need to. It's called satanic school. I know who Satan is. And if they're called satanic, then we should be against it. And praise be to God, they were able to knock them out. They only got one vote for keeping it and the rest of the votes for against it, which was even that is surprising. What about these kind of things that are happening all over the place? And should people, well, I guess we're coming up on our break, so I don't know if we should be asking a question, but at least on the other side of the break, the question of the whole idea that companies should stay out of it, that we have to just have the people movement towards it, and what can companies do? People have small companies because we can't take on these Disney corporations with these small companies, right? But at the same time, we have to do something. So hold
that thought, though, because we're right up against a hard break here. We're talking with Ilan Shulovich. He is the CEO of Egard Watches. You can find them online at egardwatches.com. That's Egard Watches, egardwatches.com. Check them out. Beautiful watches, but more importantly, a very courageous stand in a culture and a time where good morning to you again, sir. Thank you for your time. I want to ask you about censorship. This is something we've been dealing with quite a bit here on our program. We've been slapped a number of times by our masters, YouTube and Google. But you've also experienced this commercial that you created, which we played a bit of on our program a week before last. You've been told you are not allowed to promote this video. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Facebook and Google, YouTube said it was election advertising or political advertising, which is not new for us. The video that was humanizing police was deemed political as well, and they restricted it. And they've also, to some degree, shadow banned our channel. We have a lot of subscribers and our views went down tremendously after we started putting out these videos. We've seen the views go up and then be taken down. It's very weird. There's a lot of things they've done. Again, it's, I used to think it was a conspiracy until it started happening to me. It's like people are telling me views are going down. I don't believe it. And then I literally watched it happen on my channel and I was like, oh no, it's happening.
It's real. Yeah, it happens to us. In fact, we've been stricken many times and now we're pretty much shadow banned and it's almost impossible for us to get a lot of watch time on YouTube, which is why we are on a bunch of other channels. So, I mean, think about that for a second, Mr. Shurlovich. We live in a time and an age where you're not allowed to have a public voice, even if you pay for it.
Yeah, they just won't even let you pay for it. Yeah, it's fascinating. Again, I think it's an inversion of truth. It's a denial of the individual, and people who want to do that, people who don't believe in any form of absolute truth, happen to have this power right now, and they'll do whatever they can to prevent it from being spoken into the world. It's interesting because it connects to what was said previously about what can people do. And I always tell myself, I'm like, if I can even expose a message to 2 people, to 5 people, if there's 1 million people like me out there speaking, then that's 5 million people. And those 5 million people will continue to speak, and that will become 10 million people. And those 10 million people will continue to speak, and that'll become 50 million people. Change doesn't have to happen today. I just have to keep speaking into the world, and there'll be a response to it because it's the truth. The truth has more power than 1,000 lies. So that's always my recommendation to people is, to the extent of not damaging, I understand people have to put food on the table. You can't go out there and get yourself fired. But you do have to find ways to start speaking up and to start trying to affect change, even if it's on a really small scale, because we're all in it together. It's our future. It's our children's future in the end of the day.
Amen. One of the things that struck me when I ran into this story, we had done a small spot a few weeks ago talking about your video, as we mentioned, about what is a woman. And I saw this news article about you guys getting censored, and I said, oh, amen. One struggle. Here we go. This is what we're going through, and we end up talking about, we always somehow get back to the relationship between public and private entity, right? How private entity tends to override all of the means for us to communicate. And I like what you just said, as long as you keep producing content, as long as you keep talking about the issue at hand and speaking truth, you're going to convert people. But I want to just kind of flip the coin a little bit and say, well, how do we do that when we're censored? How do you plan on moving forward now that you're censored and shadow banned on all of the platforms where people, get your information from?
So the frustrating part about that is that the people I want to reach the most aren't necessarily people who agree with me. I want to put messages out in the world that get people to rethink. Otherwise, I'm preaching to the choir, which is nice. It's important for people to know that they, again, have representation for their point of view. But how do I get out and how do I start even reaching people who are on the fence? How do I start slowly affecting culture that's kind of the other side has done so well, which is pretty much managed to get their point of view across to every single person in the entire world and not allow any other point of view. I'm not interested in not allowing any other point of view. I'm interested in just really making sure people can hear what I have to say. I think there's alternative channels nowadays. I don't think they necessarily reach the people I would like to reach. Like I just said, that category, again, they're people who believe in what I believe. But I do think more and more and more people are looking for alternative channels to YouTube, to Google, to Facebook. We see it in the numbers, to Netflix. We see the numbers, they're going down. So there is a cultural shift happening. There's a tidal wave, I believe, coming. I hope it's coming. And so, again, if that content is out there, people will seek it. People will always, in the end of the day, at some point in their lives, have an opportunity to seek truth. And so we just need to have a place where it can be. And there are these alternative places and people will come find it eventually. Everyone kind of has their own moment, I feel.
I love the fact what you were saying about, if every single person that believed this got up and started speaking the truth, well, then you would just, even if you can only reach a couple people, then you would reach a ton of people because so many people are speaking about it. And I think that's really the thing, because people are always talking about the silent majority. And that actually makes me sad, because the idea that the majority of people are sane, the majority of people think that women are women and men are men, that believe very clear and very simple truths, but don't say anything, that's just mind-boggling, and it's almost worse because there's an apathy there. So I think one of the things that is good, and I think one of the things that is beneficial, is letting people know they're not alone. I think a lot of what the media is trying to do by censoring people is to isolate people, to make them think, well, I'm the only person I know that believes that a woman is a woman. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe women can become men. Maybe then I'm wrong about gay marriage. Maybe I'm wrong about all these different things, because they try to isolate us and make us feel that we are alone in the culture. Could you speak a little bit about that element to it?
So I don't necessarily think it's apathy. I think people a lot of the time now act out of fear instead of out of love. And so I think that is sad. You know, it takes a lot of courage to kind of risk. And again, I said people have to put food on their kids' table. That is it's very hard to take a risk with that. It was hard for me. I put my company forward. The first time we did that "What is a Man" video, the mainstream narrative was masculinity is toxic. Masculinity is toxic. Every company, every message. If you stand up for men, you're a terrible human being. You're a men's rights activist. You're this, that. And just even being associated with that would make you supposedly an endorser of rape and all these things. I had not accusations, but I had people saying oh, this guy endorses groups that support rape. This guy, this, that. They would do anything to destroy your character. But you just have to be headstrong in your beliefs and again, keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And when you get tired and you don't want to get up and walk anymore, you got to get up and keep walking. That's your only option. It's where your power is.
We're talking with Mr. Ilan Shurlovich. He is the CEO of Egard Watches. That's EGARD watches.com. We're getting a lot of great feedback on our multiple chats because we have to diversify as much as possible. But on YouTube and everywhere else, I put the link in the chat so that you guys could check out his website. You can see not only his beautiful watches, but those commercials I was referring to as well. And they are going there. So they're very grateful for you having the courage to speak out, Mr. Shurlovich. Let me talk about the pushback here. So I think the people operate out of fear in these big companies. They rush to become wokeized in order to avoid the mob and the pitchforks and the torches. How has that crowd reacted to you? How have you been able to ride the wave?
Well, I'm lucky. I'm not scared of them at all. I have no fear about it. Like I said, I'm an actor as well. I know it's for sure damaging to my career, and that's okay. It just came down to a decision very early on of what I was willing to sacrifice, and then never being willing to apologize for it. And so I think people can sense that. People can feel when you're not willing to apologize. And then do they really want to start that fight with you? Because I'm not dependent on that. I can sell my product to half the country. I can create content for half the country, and I can slowly start getting that out to more and more people and hope, again, that people are willing to listen, willing to have talks, willing to have debates. It's interesting. I've tried, I've been on a lot of media and news. No one has wanted to debate me on basic things. And I've wanted to debate about abortion. I've wanted to debate about what is a woman? I've wanted to have these talks. But we exist in a time where even that scares people, even that offends people on the other side, because they don't want to have any opportunity for you to win that argument or for you to present yourself in a way that is humanizing. And one of the things I've tried to do consistently in my videos and in my messages and whenever I talk is humanize. Because if you look at the opposition, what are they doing? They're dehumanizing people. It's an attack of extreme identity politics. It's you are less than me because of some aspect of yourself or some opinion that you have. And whether it was an attack on men, now it's an attack on women in many ways, whether it was an attack on police, these are always attacks. They're never messages of love. And so if you look, what I try and do genuinely is put out messages that are in support, not an attack. And I think that's a huge shift that has to happen for corporate America, where the messages they put out have to stop erasing something and start supporting something, right? So it's a fascinating kind of dynamic, but I think that that's given me a little one up, because it's hard to attack a video that is showing all the wonderful things men have done in society. It's hard to attack a video that's bringing light to the beauty of what a woman is.
Yeah.
And so they're always in a position, I think, where they just either send me hate mail, which is fine. I get those emails from people, but they don't really take it on like they would someone who they feel they can truly destroy.
Based on emotions and not facts. We're getting down to the wire here. You said your career's in jeopardy in Hollywood. I've talked to a number of actors and people who work in Hollywood, and they say there's a quiet conservative wave there, but they don't want to speak out because of fear. Got about 60
The amount
seconds.
of fear in Hollywood is astonishing. It's astonishing the amount of people who are scared to say anything. And then what do they do? Because Hollywood by nature creates an environment where people are dependent, right? It's almost parasitic by nature. If you're an actor, you're relying. That's why you see such toxic behavior coming out of there.
Yeah.
You need someone to give you the opportunity. You need someone to give you your power, your value. And so they're willing to do anything. They're willing to go against their own values in a second because their highest priority is just what they perceive as success. And so, sorry.
We're out of time. We're out of time. But Elon Shirlovich, CEO of Egard Watches, check them out online. We are not sponsored. Just a great company standing up for truth. Egard Watches, that's EGARD, watches.com. Mr. Shirlovich, thank you for your time today. God bless you. God love you.
God bless. Thank you so much.
All right, that is going to do it for hour number 1 today of Catholic Drive Time. Thank you for joining us.